The reason why this meeting is important for us is because we've been conducting research on this topic for over 10 years. And we see it's very important for us to contribute our expertise on how migrants are experiencing their journeys before and after, but also to contribute to policy research, so policy intervention. So what we do is we try to inform governments of the key issues migrants are facing, provide solutions that are practical, but also look at the local dynamics, like how county or communities can actually respond to labor migration issues experienced on the ground, especially those of women. We've conducted research in Seychelles, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Cameroon, Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, and I think Morocco to a certain extent. But it has been more on social protection, irregular migration, just try to understand the legal space, the governance space. I see similarities and differences because of the historical component. We need to bear in mind that some of our countries were colonized by different European states, so the structures that are in place are very similar to those countries of the former colonies. But at the same time, they're very similar because there's lack of migration governance. The problems that are highlighted are more or less the same in terms of protection issues, but also there's that need for capacity for not only government stakeholders, but also local government and also CSOs on migration issues. Because migration is not a new topic, but it's not a topic that's well known by all stakeholders. The biggest challenge is always we always have the conversation with key government officials, but sometimes they change. So we always have to update them on what we've been bringing on the table for policy. Another aspect is emergencies that come up can actually put the policy at the bottom of the table. So like when COVID came, it was an emergency to kind of arrest or reduce the spread. But then we had an issue of return and reintegration of migrants from GCC countries. So it's almost like we need to find a way to prioritize migration issues. But at the same time, we are a research organization, so we need to be able to align ourselves with the right partners to engage with them and then pick and choose how we can actually get them interested in the topic so that it is a policy agenda. I've been fortunate to be part of that process, at least in the initial stages. And at least I can say they allow us to contribute our perspectives as experts on migration. When we did the migration profile for Kenya in 2015, we found that the government was very receptive to the information we presented on that profile because they started to use it to make interventions or to address some of the gaps that we identified. And now I think they're on their fourth migration profile. We're not doing the fourth one, but we started the process with IOM. But it was very useful for us to see that government is actually open to using evidence to inform or to make changes to their policies and practices. Another one is I was assisting the government of Malawi to develop a national migration policy. It was supposed to be interactive for them to actually bring in the government perspective. And I'm happy to say at least this year they said that they're on the final stages, and I helped in that process in terms of like guiding them to structure a much more comprehensive national migration policy. So there are the examples, but I can't go through all of them. I feel like sometimes that is always missing in policy. The policies are great, but the migrant voices and experiences and the human face of migrants is sometimes missing. So I think if they develop the policies, they must take the policy to the ground, to the migrants who it directly affects, and then get their perspective to actually make it a stronger policy. Because sometimes you find the policy is very disjointed from the experiences of migrants. So that is one major one I think they can do. And they can actually adopt in the case of Kenya, but also in other African countries, go to the local community level. Start small and then scale up from there, because at the local community level is where the greatest impact will be made. I think the migrants have a way of reflecting their experiences. So I would give them scenarios of migrants' experiences and say, this is what your policy means to this migrant. This is how it impacted them, and this is what they see is missing. So it's not my voice, but it's the migrants' voices.